So there's been a lot of talk about Luka Doncic, a player who's played professionally with Real Madrid since he was 16 years old and is seen by a lot of people as the best prospect in the 2018 draft. To be honest, I'm one of them. I think he will be better than Michael Porter Jr. and Marvin Bagley, but I think it's very close. While he doesn't have the best player in the world potential, he's got star potential, and I think he's going to help whatever team he goes to. And I think if the Celtics get the number one pick, they might actually use him as kind of a primary ball handler, especially if the team feels that having Isaiah Thomas at the point guard isn't going to help them win championships. But the biggest reason why Luka Doncic has got so much hype is he's probably the closest thing to a sure thing anyone has ever seen from a European prospect. There's always players with boom or bust potential in Europe, but Doncic was a little bit different, which is why he is rated higher than this guy right here. There's another player in Europe that some draft boards have him as high as 7, Draft Express has him as 13 in the lottery, and NBA Draft.net does not even have this guy in the rankings. Yep, he's not even on the draft board. So that's why you take everything from NBA Draft.net with a pinch of salt, because they know nothing. This guy, Dzanan Musa from Bosnia. I have definitely butchered that first name, so I'm just going to call him Musa because I know that's how his second name is pronounced. And when I talked about Luka Doncic, a lot of people made the argument saying if he was good, he would have went to NCAA. These guys are making professional money playing in a better league than NCAA. And yes, Euroleague is far, far better than NCAA. Even still, Michael Jordan was trying to get Musa to play for North Carolina. I'm just saying this, obviously, after I've edited everything, I want to put this in because a lot of you guys are going to be commenting if he was that good, he'd play NCAA. He had a chance. MJ wanted him to play for North Carolina, but he decided to stay pro and play in Europe. Musa burst onto the scene when he was about 14 years old. In 2015, he actually won MVP of the FIBA Under-16 European Championship. And while you mightn't think this is a big deal at all, and to some people it isn't, Bosnia isn't really historically an incredible basketball nation. When I would have been under 16, which was 2012, Bosnia would have been a B country. They would have been competing in the B championships with the likes of Ireland, with the likes of the United Kingdom, Portugal, countries like that you rarely ever see NBA players. But in 2015, he actually led the Bosnian team to winning an A championship over countries like Lithuania and Spain. That is absolutely massive. And while it may not be a big deal to a lot of people, he did lead a team that historically wasn't spectacular to a title. His play led a team to a title, and he also won MVP. While it's not that big of a purpose in this video, it's definitely something that needs to be mentioned. Last year in the Under-17 World Championship, he was actually the top scorer in the entire competition with 34 points per game. He also set the record for most points in a FIBA Under-17 World Championship game with 50 points in 27 minutes against Chinese Taipei. Well, obviously Chinese Taipei, it's not like dropping that on Team USA. But to score 50 points in a World Championship game and to set a record, think of the amount of great players that have played in the Under-17s World Championship, and he holds a record for the most points in a game. While like Luka Doncic, he did make his Euroleague debut at 16 years old. He obviously wasn't met with as much hype because Doncic plays for Real Madrid and he played for a much lower team, who actually last season didn't play in Euroleague. They did play in Eurocup, which is the league Porzingis would have played in, so you can't really hold that too much against him. But it's his progress since the World Championship where he really burst onto the scene. That is why I think that he is going to be one of the best players in this draft class. Obviously, he's got a lot of boom or bust potential. We haven't seen him at a club like a Real Madrid be a star there. So he does obviously have bust potential, but his boom potential is incredible. He's actually grown about 2 inches since 2015. He's now 6'9". He's a 6'9" wing. And unlike Doncic, who plays very little defense, while it's not spectacular, Musa does play a little bit of defense and he does work on that end of the floor. The one downside in Musa's game is he doesn't have elite athleticism, but his length may make up for that. Like a player like Doncic, like Manu Ginobili in the past, he's an extremely crafty scorer. While he doesn't have elite athleticism, and that may actually be a massive flaw in the NBA that may stop him from being a star. You just never know with European prospects, because for every star there's a bust. You don't actually know how their games are going to translate. He could be a Ginobili. Obviously I'm comparing him to Ginobili because Ginobili played in Europe. Obviously he's not European himself, but players that have played in Europe, you just never know with crafty scorers whether they're going to be elite scorers at the NBA level or whether their athleticism is going to completely prevent them from scoring at the NBA level. It's just a really difficult one to tell. Last season in all competitions, he averaged 9.1 points per game, which is a little bit higher than Doncic, but obviously he doesn't have the playmaking ability of Doncic, only averaging just over 1 assist per game. His shooting, again, isn't as good as Doncic, only shooting 46% from the field and 32% from 3, but again, that's not terrible, especially for an 18-year-old playing senior basketball. But one major reason I think he's going to be a success at the NBA level is from a Draft Express report from the Adidas Eurocamp. Obviously I wasn't at the camp, I didn't see this firsthand, but from reading the report it's extremely positive. They basically talked about how a lot of people said his defense was going to be a big concern, and at that camp he showed that he's actually quite a decent defender. And one other thing was that in the final of the competition, the final game of the camp, they said he didn't put up big numbers at all, but throughout the entire game he was getting his teammates involved, he helped his teammates, and he just kept doing little things that helped his team to win, which is massive, because that means a lot of the time European scorers, Dzanan, flat out scorer. If he doesn't start scoring in the NBA, he's gone. If Musa isn't scoring well, I think he will be a great scorer in the NBA. But if he's able to do all the little things, if he's able to defend, if he's able to be a good team player, he will have a future in the NBA. So it's not as big of a bust potential as he seems, because if he is a hard worker, if he is a team player, especially with the craftiness, with the skill he has, there will be a spot for him on an NBA roster. Because it's rarer and rarer to find team players, to find unselfish players, players that don't stat pad in the NBA, and those players will be in very high demand, especially if they show that they can perform in any way on the NBA level, which I can guarantee you this guy will do. And if you're wondering where all the background footage is from, this isn't from an underage tournament. This is the senior FIBA World Cup qualifiers, well, pre-qualifiers for next year. While obviously he's not coming up against any spectacular senior talent, he was the leader of the Bosnian team, and in 6 games he averaged 22.8, 3.3 and 2.5 on 53% from the field, 48% from 3 and 82% from the line. That is absolutely incredible. And again, not getting ahead of myself, but it just shows he has the ability to lead, and he's fearless. This guy's 18 years old, and while they're not NBA level players, these guys are pros and they're grown men. And he's still fearless in his game. He's still getting to the basket. He's still shooting. And it doesn't seem to faze him at all. That's why I don't think the jump to the NBA is going to faze him too much. While it seems to have for players like Dzanan, this guy just seems to have his hero's mentality. He seems to have a Kobe type mentality. And for that reason, I have a really good feeling about this guy. A boom or bust potential, but I think if he's in the right system, he could be a seriously good player. A 6'9" Manu Ginobili type player. And he could be, while I'm not going to go as far as to say a star, I think he could be a major piece on a championship team, which in a way could be better than saying he's going to be a star. So anyway, that's the video. A lot of people haven't heard about this prospect. To be honest, I remember hearing about him when he won the European Championship under 16 with Bosnia. I watched a little bit of him in 2016, and then the whole Luka Doncic hype train took over. Hadn't really looked at him too much. And then a guy, obviously the highlights are from his videos. I'm going to put a link to him in the description. He messaged me on Twitter saying, have a look at what this guy's done. And I watched some of the stuff and it's just incredible. I can't believe the Doncic hype has made so many people forget about this guy, but I think without doubt he should be a lottery pick in this draft. While he's not a sure thing, and because he's a European, there's still the massive bust potential. It's still the unknown, so I wouldn't pick him in the top 10, even though I think he has top 10, maybe even top 5 talent. I still would pick him somewhere between the 10 to maybe 14 range, but if he drops Like, if he has a not great season and he drops to someone like the Warriors or the Spurs at the end of the first round, he's going to be the steal of the draft. So anyway, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.